I'm Glenn McGuinness, and this is Outburst. On the program, should MPs be able to opt out of swearing allegiance to the king?
I'm a fan of the monarchy and history, so sure, let's keep that tradition in.
I feel like that's part of what makes Canada Canada.
I don't think anybody should have to swear allegiance to anybody.
If you don't like it, that's it. Don't apply for the job.
But first, Canadians are not expected to go to the polls federally until October of 2025. That's almost 2 years from now, or at least until that confidence and supply agreement lasts between the Liberals and the NDP. But depending on who you ask, some Canadians would like to see an election call with the cost of living out of reach for so many people. So we asked Canadians if they feel it's time to vote now, or can it wait? Our question. Do you want to see a federal election sooner or later?
Sooner, hopefully. It seems that politics in Canada are a little bit stagnant right now, and hopefully we can stick a spoon in there and swirl it up.
I don't particularly want to see it sooner. I'm fine when the election happens, whenever it happens.
The less elections, the better. Hopefully they can get along with one another. We have to go again in 2025. I just as soon not go in 2024.
I think maybe sooner. I think there are a few things that need to be changed. It would be nice if they could be addressed as soon as possible. I think that a lot of the people who are in power right now are saying a lot of the right things, but not really doing anything about it. It's mostly talk, it seems. And it almost seems like there's not a whole lot of thought being put into it. So I'd like to see more initiative, I guess.
I would say sooner. I think we're ready for change in Canada, yeah.
Sooner. So we need a change. It's time for change, and I think it's very important that for people like me and the rest of the community to voice our opinion and say that it is time for a change, and I think change is going to be good.
I would say probably sooner than later, definitely based on the way inflation's been going. Now, I'm a liberal at heart, to say the least, but it seems that we might need a little shift in the government right now. But that's just my opinion, right? But yeah, I do think sooner than later probably be better.
Later. I think Trudeau's doing a good job.
That's all true.
That's it, yeah, I think he's doing fine, yeah. It could be a lot worse.
Right now, I think I'd like to see one sooner, just because I feel like there's a lot that could be done to change things that are going on in the country. But I also am like, I don't know a whole lot about what's on the go either. So right now, I think it would be nice to see one sooner, but I'm also content to wait until the election time is done.
Today. We want one today, because we need to get rid of the Prime Minister, Trudeau. Because the country is going downhill. There's more that can be done, that's not being done, and our provincial government and our federal government is letting us down.
I think it's about time, isn't it? I think, not that we have many good options, but I think it is time to, at the very least, shake up the ruling party with the idea of an election, at the very least.
The sooner we can have a federal election and get rid of what's going on, the government we have in now, the better.
Yeah, right now Trudeau is really down in the polls, but I really don't like to see Poilievre going into. If we have an election now, it looks like the PCs will get in, and I don't like to. I'd like for Jagmeet Singh to get in as a leader of the whole country, but unfortunately he hasn't got the party to support him. So I'd have an election now. I think it'd be a waste of money. I think you got to wait for a little while until you're make sure that you're electing the right people into politics, into the offices that are out there.
It's a good question. I would say I think we need to see a federal election sooner, because I think we need to there's a lot of important issues that are happening around affordability, cost of living, inflation. I think we have to have a serious public policy discussion on how we grow Canada's economy. I think there's a lot of uncertainty with where the direction the country is going. And I think if we're not seeing the clear vision from all three party leaders how are we going to look at building a future for Canadian citizens that our families can be proud of?
Good question. Not sure.
Why aren't you sure?
The options aren't very good. So, more like the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't know.
I'd rather sooner.
Why?
Because we need to have a good government that would actually help for the people who need it the most.
And you?
I believe the same. We need to fix everything in this world, in this country.
Sooner.
Why?
It's just time for a change, just to see what people think.
Later.
Why?
I'm content with the balance of power for the time being, with the work that the two parties, the NDP and the Liberals, are doing. I'm content with status quo. I don't like change just for the sake of change, because you could very well wind up with something worse.
For many of us, that disposable income that we've become so accustomed to has slowly been eroding because of a higher cost of living. This has resulted in some people having to make some difficult decisions in order to save a little money here or there. We sent our cameras out to ask Canadians how and where they have cut corners in order to cope with a higher cost of living at almost every turn. Our question: what tough decisions have you made to deal with higher prices?
Just tightening the belt a little, right? So mostly extracurricular activities now have gone down a lot in our household. I have kids, and unfortunately we don't get to vacation as much now, or the kids can't be in as more activities outside of, say, school or gymnastics, things like that. But you got to do what you do in these times, right, to pay for groceries and bills and heat and all that. So that's basically what we've done.
Right now, the only big decisions I can make, especially where right now I live paycheck to paycheck, is you're kind of just having to hop around and see where has the best sales. So you kind of have to figure out oh, this store is going to have their sale on this day, or this store is going to have their sale on this day, and some of the things that you would have had a couple of years ago, you have to cut out because now it's just no longer economically viable in this day and age.
Well, I'm retired. I'm on a fixed income, and there's times that I go into the store and I have to choose not so good things to buy because of the price. What's good for you and your health, I can't afford to buy it. And I've had to do things on the side to try to make extra dollars to put the food on my table. I'll be 70 on my birthday, and I'm a retiree.
Well, I am retired. I'm a retired teacher, and I do more coupon shopping than I've ever done in my life. And the flyers come out on Thursday. You get a preview on Wednesday. And, we installed a heat pump. We drive less. We're doing everything we can. We cut back our heat in the night, thermostats, regulate it so that they go down to 16 at night and 20, 21 in the daytime, and we wear sweaters. It's tough. It's tough for all Canadians, I'm sure.
I have to work longer. I have to work some overtime, find a second job, and sometimes even a third. So it's, you're putting everything on the line. You have to put your family to a side a little bit because you had to support your family. So you had to make those tough decisions. So I've had to do that in the past.
Not buy so much. That's only I'm trying to. The prices are gone, ridiculously high, and I don't know when it's going to stop, because there's only so much money out there that incomers like myself, retired people, and I don't know. It's not easy right now, and it looks like it's going to get worse. So what we buy now is on sale. If it's not on sale, we don't buy it. That's absolutely got to,
Groceries, mostly, and just basic living expenses.
What kind of decisions, in what way? Like just buying other products, or?
Basically not going out anymore and cooking at home.
Cutting down on groceries. I think that's the big one for a lot of people, just watching the spending and, just looking out for smaller prices instead of supporting local businesses. I think that's a big one as well.
How's that going for you?
It's going okay. As good as it can be. Everyone has to kind of get along, and make the best of what they have. So,
for me, it's just, watch when I have to go into a grocery store, it's just being very mindful of, what I'm spending, right? I think, because I'm saving for different things in terms of my own future. And so having to be able to budget properly in terms of not only at the grocery store, but also what I do in terms of my overall consumer spending and what I need to buy to be able to ensure I'm living properly, but also for securing my own future as well.
Food over rent.
Food over rent.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate for a little bit for me?
I have a 5-year-old, and sometimes you have to be short. I talk to the landlord and tell him I have to be $100 short because my daughter needs school food. Yeah.
And you, sir?
I'm more like bills over food, because food is very highly expensive these days, and trying to get proper food and try to survive is not as easy as it used to be.
Well, I think a lot of my expense goes to food, and I know Canada has some of the highest prices of food in the world. I have to watch eating organically. I notice I have to watch for sales a lot more than I used to. And I have to forego certain luxuries like eating organically or even healthier. Sometimes there are healthy things that are very inexpensive, but there are a lot of healthy things that are very expensive.
Mainly changing my shopping habits, especially related to food. Yeah. And just other spending, not as much money there for like clothing and things, non-necessity items.
Goodness gracious. Prices are getting higher for everything. Housing, rent, food. As a diabetic, I need to pay for insulin, and it's very tough. We all have to make sacrifices, and unfortunately, it reaches a limit.
And what kind of sacrifices have you made?
Well, I don't get to get the cheese I like anymore. Unfortunately, cheese and dairy are a little bit expensive, so I had to cut that out. And I'm eating less meat, unfortunately, and certainly worse cuts.
I've had to face homelessness as a single mom with 2 kids. So have been living in hotels, not paying through foster care and stuff like that. So it's the government pays for the price of the hotels. But being a single mom with 2 kids, it's definitely difficult, and trying to cut corners and not be able to get things for my kids that they need and stuff like that.
The leader of a party with the second largest membership in the House of Commons is called what? Leader of the official opposition, president of the Treasury Board, or House Leader?
Leader of the opposition.
I'll say House Leader.
House Leader.
Opposition. Leader of the opposition. Is that it?
Leader of the opposition.
House Leader. President of the Treasury Board, I think.
Leader of the official opposition.
Correct.
Oh, good luck. Perfect.
When a political party has the most seats in opposition after finishing second in a federal election, the party's leader becomes the leader of the official opposition. The leader of the opposition becomes the lead critic on government programs and policies, and he or she will also assemble a shadow cabinet to keep tabs on government ministries. The Senate and provincial governments also have an opposition leader. The official opposition party also receives financial and procedural advantages over other opposition parties, and like the Prime Minister, the opposition leader also has his or her own official residence known as Stornoway. Recently, Canada's Immigration Minister Mark Miller announced Canada would be putting a cap on the number of international students entering the country each year. This cap is expected to last about 2 years, and its aim is to find a sustainable level of temporary residence in a country that is already suffering with a housing crisis with no end in sight. Also, people wanting to move to Canada must prove that they have the means to cope with a higher cost of living, which means at least $20,000 in the bank, which is double what was required in 2023. So, do you agree with these changes? Our question: should there be a cap on the number of international students admitted to Canada?
It depends on from what country, what countries.
What do you mean?
Well, I think countries that don't share our values, I would like to see less student visas for. So but overall as a whole, I wouldn't just want to cap the amount of international students. I would say it would depend on where they're from. So some countries that I think are adversarial, we should cut back on the visas.
What about reasons for housing or affordability?
I would say they should potentially put more onus upon the universities themselves to provide more housing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would say, I think it's something that I think we have to think about carefully. I don't think it's a one size fits all solution. I think you have to look. You can't expect just an international cap to solve what we're doing in terms of talent shortages. Look at how we're doing a balance between Canadian workers and also bringing in talent. So I think it has to be looked at more closely.
I guess it would depend on if it's making people here suffer. If it's pushing people who should be here out. I think we should take care of Canadians here first, and then take care of anybody abroad as much as we can.
Yes and no. My partner was an international student, so at that time it benefited him to be able to come to Canada, and I could see why people would want to come to Canada, but at the same time it can make the job market harder for Canadians as well in opening positions, and also housing, but there just in general needs to be more affordable housing.
I think maybe, as a housing crunch, as you know, as everyone worried, and all the students come in, they got to live somewhere.
And if they're going to be here, they have to be able to afford to be here. Because I hear a lot of them use our food banks. I have no problem with that. However, when it's continuous, that means they didn't come with enough money. So they have to be vetted a little bit more stringently, I think, if they're going to be here.
Well, that's a tough question because, yes, we want students coming to Canada, but we got to have accommodations for them, of course. And if accommodations is a problem, then maybe we can't accommodate them.
No, I don't think so. I think, especially here in Newfoundland, I mean, I went to Memorial myself. Memorial is very prominent in international students. I don't think that's a bad thing because it also draws new Canadian citizens to the country who might have medical degrees or different types of business degrees, and I think diversity is quite fine. I don't think that's an issue right now, and I don't think it's an issue in our universities.
We should invite as many smart people to this country as possible. This country was built on inclusiveness, and we need to bring in all these smart people. You know, the other countries are losing out because we're getting all the brain power coming this way. So it's great for us. Keep it coming.
Well, look, the government knew about the crisis in the housing sector many years ago. It's only now that it's become a crisis that they're starting to deal with it. So they should have dealt with and planned with this. They knew what was going to happen. Mr. Byrne has been praising everything to the hilt about the international people that's moving in. They're increasing our population. They're having families and so on. I just think that we had to look at home first before we start bringing people in that's going to look for the same thing that many of our residents are looking for.
I think it would be a very good idea if we could let anybody in as an international student. I know it's a really great opportunity for a lot of people in the world. I think we need to work on the system we have to welcome these students so we have a place for them to stay and resources for them to use when they do get here.
You ask a very difficult question. I'm very supportive of immigration, expanding our borders, people of different cultures and backgrounds coming in. That's what's made the country over the years. Unfortunately, in the process of doing that, we've not really collectively done enough about housing, for one thing, and other issues is related to it as well. So I've forgotten the exact wording of the question, but I would like to see as many immigrants as possible, but they need housing as our homeless do.
I do know that there is a shortage of food in food banks because a lot of international students are coming in without truthful proof of how much money they're coming here with. And I sympathize with that, but I also sympathize with the people who need food from the food banks. So it's really hard to have a strong opinion on this one, I think, yeah.
I think the country needs immigrants fundamentally going forward in large numbers. So to me, at this point in time, I don't agree with a cap on international students.
Canada's ties to the monarchy are undeniable. After all, it was Queen Victoria who helped give Canada its identity and named Ottawa as our capital. When a member of Parliament is sworn in, they also pledge allegiance to the Crown or the King. But a private member's bill put forward by New Brunswick Liberal MP Renee Arsenault is looking to end that tradition. If passed, lawmakers would only be required to swear an abbreviated oath to carry out their duties in the best interests of Canada while upholding its Constitution. So, what do you think about this? We took to the streets with this question.
Should MPs be able to opt out of swearing allegiance to the King?
Well, that's a difficult question. I don't know how I'd answer that one. I feel like that's part of what makes Canada Canada, is that we're still connected to the British, and if you don't do your allegiance to the King, that kind of takes away part of what makes us who we are, in a way.
I really don't think the King should be controlling what's going on in our country. No, the Commonwealth, no, I don't think so. Yes, we're under NATO and all this stuff, and yeah, we are under the Commonwealth. But there's a lot going on that I do believe that we should be controlling ourselves, our Prime Minister and our government, instead of under the Commonwealth.
Well, I would say no to that. Right now, we're still connected with the King, and that's the way it is in Parliament. And unless it changes, or a law changes, that's it. If you don't like it, that's it. Don't apply for the job.
Yeah, I think the royalty thing is history. It's old tradition that should be washed away, by the evolution of human beings and society and culture. So, yeah, that should be gone. That should be abolished, yeah.
Personally, I don't think we should have a Governor General. I think we should have like a native steward or something. I think this kind of symbolic connection to the British Crown, I think we should get rid of it wholesale. But as long as if we haven't dismantled the system, I don't think an MP individually gets to pick and choose. I think if we can dismantle the system, then nobody has to swear the oath. But I think saying, oh, one guy you can swear, but you don't have to swear, I don't think that's fair.
Absolutely not. That's the system we're under, and until it's changed nationally and internationally, I think what hurt does it do? It doesn't change their salaries, that's for sure.
Well, in all honesty, I don't have a strong opinion on this. I think if someone wants to swear allegiance to the King, that's fine. I also think if someone doesn't want to swear allegiance to the King, it's fine as well. I mean, I don't think that determines whether or not they're going to do what's necessary and what's right for the people of this country. To me, I just don't think it's a wholly important thing.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should have to swear allegiance to anybody, so.
Wow, that's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm not just the average man on the street. I'm a fan of the monarchy and history, so sure, let's keep that tradition in. As long as we have a queen or king, may God let them reign and long live the king.
I'm not a monarchy fan, so I'm 100% behind that.
Why?
We're an independent country, so to me it's a ceremonial tie to Great Britain, and I think it's not just a money thing to me, it's just we're an independent country, so we don't need to be tied to Britain in any way, shape or form. And I guess I'm just not a fan of the monarchy and the costs of the monarchy more in that country, that I think the money could be put to better use. But I've heard the counter argument that you bring in a lot of tourism because of the monarchy, but no, I'm not a monarchy fan.
you know, that's what they want to do. I think that's great, but I don't think anybody should be forced or, you know, feel that they're going to be somehow condemned if they don't. You know, I think it is definitely a personal decision, and it should be, yeah.
Oh no, we're royal, aren't we? We're Royal Canada. And I'm happy, okay with it. But if, you know, everybody each their own, right? I'm sorry.
I think being allegiance to the king shows respect and honor and dignity, because you never know what day is going to happen from one day to the next. Because he's serving as our leader, main leader for our country. We need to show that kind of respect, no matter who the person is. You know, it makes us who we are.
He's our monarch. I wouldn't say he's our main leader.
Yes, a monarch. Yes, yeah. He shows leadership as well, and honor.
I think that's a very complicated subject. I think, look, I think we have a monarchy in Canada. I think we have to be able to respect it. And I think, you know, we have to look at a balance between the traditions of Canada, but also moving with the times.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
It's such an outdated thing. I don't think anybody to this day actually sees things that way or practices things with the royal family.
I mean, I want to separate from the monarchy, but I think as long as the rules are in place, no. I think it's time we graduate, and I'd like to see Terry Fox on our money, or hockey players or something. It's nothing against Charles, you know, I don't think he's a bad guy, but I think we have plenty of, we don't need it anymore. So, but as long as the rules are there, the MPs should follow them.
Yes, because we don't live under a I mean, I know that we've had ties to the monarchy, but we are a democratic country now. So, yeah, that's it.
You just don't think it's necessary?
No. Why should they have to? It just seems outdated.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.